Stand today at a place of battle, one that 40 years ago saw and felt the worst of war. Men bled and died here for a few feet of or inches of sand as bullets and shell fire cut through their ranks. About them, General Omar Bradley later said, "Every man who set foot on Omaha Beach that day was a hero." No speech can adequately portray their suffering, their sacrifice, their heroism. President Lincoln once reminded us that through their deeds, the dead of battle have spoken more eloquently for themselves than any of the living ever could. But we can only honor them by rededicating ourselves to the cause for which they gave a last full measure of devotion. Today, we do rededicate ourselves to that cause. And at this place of honor, we're humbled with the realization of how much so many gave to the cause of freedom and to their fellow man. Some who survived the Battle of June 6, 1944 are here today. Others who hope to return never did. "Someday, Liz, I'll go back," said Private First Class Peter Robert Zanetta of the 37th Engineer Combat Battalion and 1st Assault Wave to hit Omaha Beach. "I'll go back and I'll see it all again. I'll see the beach, the barricades, and the graves." Those words of Private Zanetta come to us from his...
Hello, guys. Hello, guys. Honoring D-Day today for all of our country. And all of you, thank you very much for joining us. Hey, Margo, how are you?
I'm good. D-Day special to me. My father was a World War II veteran. He wasn't at D-Day, though. He was in Hawaii.
Very good. Very good. I come from a long line of Army family. My grandfather was an engineer in the Army. And yeah, I mean, we think about the courage of Americans then and now.
And the president then and now.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll be talking about that. We'll be going from talking about a great man to a fake man, but that's coming up. And so we want to start off every show going over what the polls are. I know that you guys, you have a job, so it's kind of hard to do, right? Yesterday, we got this poll where you see that Trump's in a very, very big way. And I think that this is kind of indicative of the mood here in North Carolina, right? There's a big Trump move. This is going to come as no surprise that after the verdict, he got very little change, right? And the way that people are looking at him. Andy Jackson, again, from the Locke Foundation, he puts up some great stuff. If you don't follow him, give him a follow. The ECU poll has a question on the impact of Trump's guilty verdict. You can see here on the far left that 37% are more likely to vote. And then 39%, Margo, they don't really give a rip about what happened in the trial. And I think that we're finding that on a national basis.
Well, I think that we are seeing so much lawfare now, all across the country in every sphere, whether it's even in the party, we see it. People just don't care about that anymore.
No, they're trying to save our country. They care about inflation. They care very much about
safety,
crime, and the crime. Go Army. Absolutely. Thank you, John. They care very much about crime, and we're going to be talking about that a lot. And we're going to be talking about crime on the juvenile side of it, because guess what, guys? We're raising up the next Red Army in our schools. So they're revving them up. They're teaching them how to be activists. This isn't hyperbole. Is it happening in more schools than it was last 4 years ago? Yeah. In all schools? No.
And it's not just that. It's just not in schools. It's in cities. Crime is going up with juveniles, period. It doesn't matter if it's in a school or in a neighborhood.
78% rise in violent crime in 2023. 78%.
That's nuts.
That's 10-year-old to 18-year-old. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to kind of get that broken down for all of you. But first, let's talk about, when we talk about crime, we're talking about a statewide race. We're talking at the very top echelon. and you have a lot to say about, again, we talked about a great man, Ronald Reagan and Trump. Now let's talk about a fake man, Josh Stein, and his fake racial equity, soft on crime approach that has seen crime explode in North Carolina. So I take offense when he puts together the kind of commercial you're going to talk about.
Oh, I can't wait to dub over the just the actions it shows. Are you going to show it?
I will. You just start talking, and I'm going to show it.
Okay. Well, Josh Stein wants you to elect him because he's going to abolish ICE, and he's going to support open borders and sanctuary cities. He's going to support abolishing the death penalty, ending mass incarceration, decriminalizing most drug offenses, and allow felons to vote. Oh, and don't forget, he thinks he's doing something awesome by saying he's gotten a new person in charge of the criminal lab. But we're still behind many years on rape kits. And then he continues to slam Mark Robinson. And I find it interesting that he continues to do that. So Josh Stein in and of himself is just so fake. He will not stand beside Biden. That's one thing I think is interesting. You don't see him beside Biden. You don't see him say things against anti-Semitism.
No, you don't.
No, he's not going to speak on things. Look, there's our man, Mark Robinson, and he can't stand him. It's amazing. You know, in business, we say, win on your own merit. Don't talk about your opponent. And I find it really interesting that there isn't one commercial that he's done that he doesn't talk about Mark Robinson.
Well, I mean, in running a campaign, you need to balance, right? You want to say 2 or 3 things about the bad guy or the other guy and 2 or 3 things about yourself. I noticed he hadn't said jack about himself. As a matter of fact, he wants to present himself as some agrarian populist going into these country churches in place of Duplin and in eastern North Carolina, eating barbecue. By the way, as a Jew, it's kind of frowned upon eating barbecue.
Kind
But
of.
I don't think very much so. So I don't think he really but he's not playing that card because remember, the political home for anti-Semitism is a Democrat Party, particularly the Democrat Party in North Carolina.
Who went after their own Jewish community internally.
Yes, absolutely. They prevented the Jewish caucus from being seated, and I'm finding it, very hard to believe. And in fact, at one point, I asked them, look, did you know that the guy at the top of your ticket is a Jew? Did you know that? I don't think they did.
Really? You don't think they did?
I don't think they did. I don't think they did. They're trying to hide it because they've got actually 0.47% of the population are Jewish citizens. And I don't have any data on whether or not they're voters or not. And I know there's at least double that with Arab population. And
I think they know it, and they're so hypocritical that they're just kind of putting it to the side because it doesn't match their narrative.
That's a good guess. But, you know, they're putting now on the ticket Cornel West. And so they're putting Cornel West on the ballot. And this is interesting, guys. So Biden got a 16% undervote during the primary. And that means people actually got their butts out of their house and took the time to say no preference on the Democrat ticket. 16% will wipe them out. That was the primary. If they get, double that amount of people, I don't know what that equates to, but double that amount of people to vote for Cornel West, who is an avowed Jew hater and a far leftist, to the left of Bernie Sanders, that could be game, set, and match for Biden here in North Carolina. I mean, it already is going to be, but I mean, he could lose in a landslide.
Well, but then add Bobby Kennedy to the ticket, Robert Kennedy Jr. to the ticket, and then you split the vote three ways, and we win no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. So this is unbelievable. I mean, this is going to be fun. There's a lot of territories too that libertarians are in. The interesting thing about the libertarian vote here in Wake County, here's what happens. I can't explain it, but a libertarian just puts their name on the freaking ballot. They don't go campaign. They don't do anything. They get on average 3.2% of the vote every time they do it.
Yeah, I think what we're gonna see in North Carolina in the next few election cycles is because we have such a wide swath of unaffiliated voters, we're going to see county races that have unaffiliated candidates in it. They're not going to be wanting to take a stand, and they don't have to, because there's enough of them in some counties that it can sway a whole election.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, in Wake County, we have some razor thin districts where you've got, a libertarian candidate, and you've also got the Constitution Party that's going to be having a few candidates on the ballot, and they are pretty much the Republican Party platform. They're running on, yeah, it's serious. So,
wow, I didn't know they had that many people. I knew that the party had people, but I didn't realize in some counties that it was really getting to the point where they're making some action.
well, I don't know who they're running.
Good to know.
But the interesting,
Speaking of,
yeah,
we've been talking about Josh Stein and crime, and then we skipped on over to some of this. We haven't said a word about the guy we really want to handle crime in our state,
yeah,
Dan Bishop.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dan Bishop is, I mean, he's a great patriot. So all of us in the grassroots, we know who Dan Bishop is, and that's important, right? Because there's kind of a lack of trust. There's a division. We've talked about this, the elephant in the room. There's a fissure here. Stein is definitely a less than honorable political figure, soft on crime. It's very important that an AG sets the tone for the entire state. We need a solid conservative, definitely, in this role, because let me tell you what, we need somebody with the power to fight back against the feds and their mandates, ridiculous mandates, the vaccine mandate, weaponizing OSHA for that, these mandates on illegals. We need a firewall between the ridiculousness, this suicidal pact that we've got with DC. So that's number one. He can file lawsuits on behalf of North Carolina or go into conservative coalitions like with Texas, et cetera, to fight back. And I know that he's going to do that. Why? He's been talking about it since he's been in office. The guy has been conservative all the way. He's never changed all the years he's been in office. He's been very outspoken, Dan has, on the need for state sovereignty. And, all these executive orders coming from Biden, we see another ridiculous one with immigration. By the way, total Hail Mary pass, right? The borders have been wide open. And he's like, oh, no, I'm going to, crack down on that.
And then today we got reports he really didn't do anything after saying that.
Oh,
I think the good thing about Dan Bishop is if we have a Republican governor and we have a Republican Supreme Court, which we do, and we have a Republican AG, that's kind of the trifecta.
I'm going to push back. It's not. We're in the Fourth Circuit. So the problem is this. Yeah, the problem is this. So guys, the way that it works is this. If we have, and I've explained this a couple of times before, in our frustration over the Title IX girls in sports. So naturally, Josh Stein isn't going to do anything. He's doing everything he can to make it impossible for girls to have a fair and level playing field. But, not only is he not going to do anything at the Fourth Circuit, which is more liberal now than the Ninth Circuit for appeals, even if, right, we've still got that Fourth Circuit. That's why we need Trump. We need some more conservative judges put into these roles ASAP. So we're in a good place if we have Dan, but we need to go a little bit further. Obviously, Trump has to get in, man. That's the whole package.
Agreed.
Mark Robinson for governor, that goes without saying. Say what you will about Mark Robinson. You never know, or you're never going to have to guess where he stands on an issue.
No, he's all about law and order and protecting children.
Yeah, well, we know that. He's been very outspoken for it. And he's been dragged for it.
All over, like Trump dragged.
Yeah, well, yeah, and worse, and it's going to actually get worse. So we need to stand by him and stand by all of our candidates, particularly in these statewide races. Now, the interesting thing about statewide races, I know a little something about it, you need to go to your population centers and turn it out. So the red states, you guys, the red counties, they're getting redder and we're getting balkanized, right? And that means that places like Brunswick, they're very red to begin with, and the number one county for people relocating. So
In North Carolina, right? The
in
number
North Carolina,
Wow,
Brunswick
that's
County.
crazy.
Got to be ground zero for us. So look, Dan published, he put this out there right after the Trump verdict, which was absolutely ridiculous. This is right. Election interference to get Trump. This is what it was all about. We know this is what it was all about. I mean, there's no doubt. And in fact, that is reflected in polls, right? This scares the hell out of me, guys. Here's what Jeff Jackson put up there. He immediately dismisses 34 unanimous verdicts by a jury as rigged. He's never been a prosecutor, and it shows. Disagreeing with the jury is one thing. Saying it's rigged is dishonest. So speech is destructive, right?
That is hilarious coming from the man who went on TikTok and told everybody, that there won't be a TikTok ban, and then went and voted for it. And then when he got caught, he took his TikTok down, that particular TikTok, because he didn't want anybody to see that he lied.
Well, not only the liar thing. I mean, I'm going to paraphrase here. What I'm interpreting that to mean is that Jeff Jackson, I'm a prosecutor. I'm running to be the chief prosecutor of North Carolina. This is hunky dory for me. Nothing to see here. And that might be the way that I conduct myself.
And more of the same for you, peasant.
Well, that's very scary if you're a conservative here in North Carolina, and maybe you're two blonde chicks here sitting here ridiculing people on a show.
It's very scary.
Yeah. So someone that says, as a prosecutor, I totally give the kosher on this. To me, that's terrifying. So, and by the way, shouldn't be just to me. It should be to all of us. So that is a reason to get out there and get out the vote. And so when we looked at the word rigged seems to, Margo, trigger the left. Well, here's what rigged means. So I looked it up in the dictionary. Manager conducts something fraudulently to produce a result or situation that advantages a particular person. That particular person wouldn't be Biden, would it? Could it be? Could it be Biden? Yeah, I mean, I think we know that it's Biden, right? Okay.
Absolutely. What is that?
Okay, so here's what I love this guy. So I'm going to see if I can make this bigger. Okay, can I make this bigger? Can you guys see this more, or did I just make it bigger on my screen?
It's tiny.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, he's giving the reasons what rigged means. How's it okay that a judge allows heavily prejudicial witnesses to spend the days talking about sex acts when those aren't even alleged in the crime? How about this? I've lived in New York. Upper West Side jury. Let me tell you what, those people would vote for Mao for president if he was around. I'm telling you. Why is it okay that a DA ran on a platform to get Trump and then has a novel BS theory of prosecution? How is it okay that witnesses that could come in and be expert witnesses in election law, like Brad Smith, to come in and educate the jury before they make their decision? Why is it that not allowing that? How is that not rigged, Margo?
The whole thing's rigged. Remember now, they wouldn't allow the election commissioner to come in and testify. That election commission did not see anything that was worth pursuing. And that would be an expert witness. They would not allow an expert witness.
A fair question that I want every one of you to ask of Jeff Jackson and inundate him with this question is, do you plan on not allowing expert witnesses to testify in trials and offer exculpatory evidence if there's a Republican or a conservative who's being prosecuted?
It makes you wonder who would be the first person they would go after in North Carolina, doesn't it?
It does. Because again, we've already set the precedent for trying the guy who's running against you or the guy that came before you. So that's okay on the presidential level. Goodness knows. Yeah. Goodness knows what will be allowable on down the road. And that's what we really have to worry about. So again, I said Brunswick epicenter. So in other words, there's more people moving there, Margo, Iredell, Cabarrus as well. The get out the vote drives, and we're going to put some together. We want to increase the Republican rolls there by, 50% of what it is now. That's pretty ambitious, but I think we can do it in Brunswick.
If that's a stretch goal, that's a great goal. You know, if we move the needle 10% in some of these counties, that's a landslide in some counties. If you can move the needle 1% in some counties, that's a landslide. Look, I'm in a 80% Republican county. I want to take it to 90, but it's going to take a lot of effort. I know I'm going to get 1% because the Black Americans in my county have asked for us to have more come. That's crazy.
Yeah, and blacks have had enough. They're tired of being tokenized. I know that Jews are as well, and probably every other, hopefully women are. Actually, there's such a great gender divide, and this is terrifying, on men and women. When you look at men and women under 35, it's almost governed by gender or sex rather than, how you were raised. Because the men are, I don't know if they're turning more conservative, but they're pretty much not fazed by the liberal BS. They're probably a little turned off by it, to be honest. But women, what's going on?
All those liberal arts degrees. I'm just saying. I mean, if you look at what's going on in schools, all the way in the collegiate level, you see it. You can clearly see it in the numbers. There, the Department of Education just did a study about how many women versus men were graduating from college, and the numbers were ridiculous.
Yeah, they're obscene, actually. And I'm actually worried for our young men, because they're graduating, to your point, not only college, but professional schools like law, medicine, things like that. So, we do have, and we'll talk about that as we go on. We have a crisis of feminizing men. And when you talk about that in the Black community, that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where you really start having real conversations. The feminization in particular of the Black man.
Yeah, I think that, and they truly do have conservative views. They're as conservative as you and I are. They may not say it, and they may not have voted that way, but I think that what has happened in America in the last 4 years has made them see, maybe they don't want to have a party affiliation, but they do want something different, because this is not it for them.
Well, that's true. And when you do a breakdown of unaffiliated voters, you will find that most of them are Black. Now, 47% of the Republican or the Democrat Party, I believe, 47%, 48 are Black. So if you're going to peel off 2% of that vote, you got problems. I mean, the Democrats are having a major behind the scenes. Let me tell you, because I got people. They're having a major crisis of turnout. They are terrified. They're terrified. So I don't know why I put this up here, because here's what you were going to talk about. You were going to talk about something going on. Actually, I was going to talk about this again. If you all came here for perfection,
that ain't us.
In fact, somebody criticized me. I guess the last show, I said me and Margo.
Well, I live up here, in the mountains, and I just said ain't. And I've got to tell you, if my mother was alive, she would have slapped me for that.
Look, I don't speak the way I write. Do any of you?
No.
No. Hell no. In fact, anyone speaking the King's English, I don't trust them. I don't trust them.
They're usually politicians.
They are. They really are. And their actions don't comport with the way they speak, let's just say. Okay, so we're talking about crime. I mean, this is serious business, you guys. Youth crime on the right is increasing exponentially. They're going to blame COVID. I don't want to hear COVID again as a fallback. We got to move on from that. Juvenile justice system. Here we go. Between 2019 and 2021, a 75.4% increase in violent crime. That is a problem.
I think it's such a problem that now the legislature's looking at doing something, aren't they?
They are looking at doing something. I'm going to go over that bill. The thing I like about, I have a lot of problems with Republicans. If you follow my Twitter feed, you're going to know that. You're going to see that I do not carry water for Republicans that don't follow the platform. If you look at Margo's TikTok.
I just tell the truth. I mean, if you say you're a conservative and then you put on your X feed that you think Trump's felony convictions were appropriate and that Steve Bannon deserves what he got, but Eric Holder didn't and Hunter Biden didn't.
Who would do such a dumb thing?
Phil Berger's right-hand man.
Yeah,
Who would
well,
do that?
we're going to talk about how he went crying on a podcast that people were being mean and calling him because he was,
Let me give him a tissue.
oh, poor thing. Let me tell you something, Brent Wilcox. We don't give a damn about you. We care about the job that's being done on behalf of the people of North Carolina, Democrats, not so much, and Republicans, right? And what you're doing and some of the things that you're doing. In fact, I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up right quick. This is newsworthy because I really agree with Democrats. And I'm actually very angry that I am put in this position by Republican leadership. Let me show you what's going on. In the budget last year, they snuck in a provision, they meaning the leadership. I'm told it was Phil Berger's right-hand man. The leadership snuck in a provision that makes it so that you cannot have access, you, the everyday man, us, to the General Assembly's records, their emails, let's say their schedule, documents that are ordinarily considered public documents. So the Democrats have gotten together and put together a bill, okay, that will make it so that, well, where did Margo go? That will make it so that you cannot access records. So that's already on there. And they're going to put it up for a vote. They want to put it up for a vote. I don't think it will go anywhere, Margo, but I think that they're making a good effort run at this.
How sad that we have to be championing something the Democrats are doing, though.
I'm angry. Again, we're playing with the frames here. If you expect perfect, go to MSNBC.
Please don't go there.
Please don't. Well, it'll only make you appreciate us more.
Listen, it'll take a couple weeks. We'll get it right.
We'll get it right. Yeah. Why are we being put in a position where we have to agree that transparency is a right of the citizen? Transparency is for the citizen.
Why do we have to fight to get it? That just blows my mind. That's our money. That's not their money. It's not their email. It's our email.
Yeah, right. And that's the whole premise behind Sunshine Law. So I expect for this to go nowhere. Unfortunately, I tip my hat to Pricey Harrison, which we agree on absolutely nothing besides this. But we have to, as they say, give the devil her due on this.
Well, on another note, since you had to extol the virtue of kindness there, I do want to bring up all the Democrats walked out today when the mask bill came up. They didn't want to have any part of it, even though I would say the Republicans acquiesced to what the Democrats requested and allowed for a contagious disease use for masks, which I think is interesting because the ADA covers any health condition that could keep you out of work or you should require things. So why do we need that anyway? I don't understand that. That's just
the Democrats and a couple of Republicans don't trust police officers to exercise their judgment. That's why. They don't want them to exercise their judgment. But this new bill, by the way, guys, I think it's on the governor's desk. I'm not sure where it is in process, but here's where it is. If someone's on your property with an N95 mask on your property, you can ask them, and I believe they have to comply to take their mask down. That's only fair because if somebody's in my yard and they're wearing a mask, etc., I want to know who the hell they are, don't you?
Yeah. I just didn't know there were that many people that had contagious diseases, but I guarantee you they'll all be at protests.
And the funny thing is, I don't remember seeing said people before COVID and before all this hell raising whilst wearing masks was going on. Do you?
No, but you know what's interesting? If you walk in the Atlanta airport, which I was in for vacation, both in and out of, it's amazing to me how many people really still torture themselves with one of those on long flights.
Hey, to each their own. Medical freedom, baby. If you want the freedom to suffer, you can do that, but you'll do it alone. Now let's talk about this issue. I've broken down. I've picked here the top 9 counties alphabetically that are seeing violence. This is level E felonies. This is breaking and entering with a weapon. This is rape. This is assault with a deadly weapon. Things of that nature. So this is for the year 2023, youth between 10 and 18. They just turned 18. So these are the amounts in 1 year, right?
Wow.
Metro. Yeah, these are top tier felonies. Now, look at these counties, you guys. You notice something that a lot of them have in common, because I do.
They're all in big cities. Big city. Guilford, Greensboro. Let's see. Charlotte, Greensboro, Durham. Wake is Raleigh.
Who are the DAs? Are they
Democrats?
Republican?
Yeah, they're Democrats.
Even in Jim O'Neill's district. Jim O'Neill is soft on crime there. I said it.
Wow. You did say it.
I did, and he is. These numbers are crazy. Now, the one thing that the crime bill, the thing I love about Republicans, most of them, the rank and file, they give good customer service.
Mm-hmm.
So they're seeing that, and here's what I mean. They're seeing there's a problem. Look at these violent crimes. And they're seeing that DAs have the flexibility in these liberal enclaves to take a 16-year-old that committed an armed robbery and keep them in the juvenile justice system rather than.
For now. But there's a bill just to stop that, change it.
Right. So there's a bill that's Neil Jackson, who is, he's been very consistent. He put out there, and I won't even show you because it's not even worth showing you, but it makes some changes to the raise the age bill. And basically what it's saying is, look, if you're 16 years old and up and you do any of the class E felonies, for instance, or a little bit below, those are serious felonies, you're going to go and be tried as an adult immediately. So it shortcuts the process. It takes the latitude away from leftist DAs to
let
maybe
them walk off.
Right. I mean, if you're committing a level E felony, you're pretty much on a path of crime, and you need to be treated as such. You're dangerous.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about dangerous criminals, just in May this past month, we had 2 really crazy incidents. One of them was in Gastonia, which Gastonia we know has a lot of crime anyway. At one point, it was the murder capital.
I'm going to get that up there. I'm going to get that up. So in Gastonia, okay, tell us what happened there.
2 15-year-old kids shot a 21-year-old. Just shot him. So it's how do you get a gun when you're 15 years old? How does that happen? And why would you want to shoot someone 9:30 p.m.? First of all, what are you doing out at 9:30 p.m. if you're 15 years old and on a school night, no less? And they shot a younger guy, a 21-year-old, who was on the road in Gastonia. The juveniles it's still an active investigation. Even today, I called to ask, and they were talking about the fact that they haven't made decisions on whether the juveniles will be tried as adults or not. But when you shoot someone to death, it's kind of a sign of where you're headed, like you said, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what would normally happen, what we've seen happen, is these kids will have their name withheld from the newspaper. And there will be a period of time, and we don't know, the time differs. So it may be, 2 days, it may be 2 months while it's in limbo. And, the prosecutors are deciding whether or not to release the name to the media, which is obscene. The DAs deciding whether or not to prosecute these, it is children as adults. We had a case here in Orange County where a 17-year-old shot at point blank range a 16-year-old and a 15-year-old. So a double murder.
Ooh, wow.
And it took us about, 5 weeks to find out. what was going on in the case, period. And I mean, we don't even know if the person's been apprehended. We don't know. There's so many things that were unknown.
Right.
And, again, good customer service. We see that the incidence of crime has gone up. Violent crime in school is up 18% this year. You've got Mo Green, who is a far left Marxist candidate who has funded, not talked about, not tipped his hat to, funded efforts to remove SROs from schools.
Yeah, and he doesn't really have a strong policy against violence in schools. As a matter of fact, I've never heard him really talk much about that. And he's out there advocating for violence on the streets, so he's really kind of creating a circle.
He's a defund the police, Black Lives Matter, DEI aficionado.
CRT.
Yeah. And Michelle Morrow's platform is, I would say, 75% safety. Why? Because who can learn?
Right, when you're not safe.
Why? And again, we go back to, why would you want to teach?
Right. And here's another one. Like, let's talk about that for a second, because the other incident I wanted to talk about is in Iredell County, which is kind of rural. It's Statesville. That's rural. But it's Vicky Sawyer's district, who before the primary was over, she did not support Michelle Morrow. Hopefully, I hope she's on board now. But she had an incident in her county where a suspect brought a high-powered rifle to school.
Right.
An 18-year-old kid brought a high-powered. Now, listen, if you live in rural North Carolina, it's not. Sometimes it can be accidental if you have it in your
back of the truck, the gun rack in the back of the
That's
pickup.
not what happened. This kid brought it to school to threaten people. So it's happening even in rural areas.
Yeah. Well, it most certainly is. In fact, it's happening in Rockingham quite a bit. That's quite the hotbed of crime in so many ways, but very concerning. And we need law and order people, again, coming from the top, but you've got to insulate yourself. So when we're out there talking about issues, and you and I have been talking to people in every county, safety is right up there. I'm disappointed that education isn't the first thing that rolls off their tongue. But I think they've gotten so bad.
I think people are really concerned about the topography and the demographics in their area, because there's such an influx in some of these counties. Like you and I were talking about earlier, we had a conversation with the Republican men's group down in Iredell last night, and they were talking about how big the shift is in a very rural county, and they don't know where people are going to get jobs. They're looking at bringing in large swaths of developments, and it's concerning when you're a rural-ish, they're on the edge county. How are you going to make a living? How are you going to keep the crime down? What are you going to do?
Yeah, and there are no real solutions coming. I will say that Republicans have put together a great collection of public safety bills. Danny Britt put one. I don't know if it's. I will know on Tuesday. I'll update you. But strengthening the penalties for death by distribution. This is important. If we're going to have an influx of, what they call migrants, illegals settling here, we don't have control over federal immigration policy, but we do have control in the state over the interior law enforcement conditions. And so that's the one thing that the General Assembly can do. And I've been happy with what they've done. There's another bill that is mandatory to cooperate with ICE. We cannot have sanctuary counties. We cannot leave this to Mecklenburg County, Guilford County DAs to decide whether or not they're going to enforce public safety laws for immigrants. Why are they treated better than we are?
Correct. And it's sad because areas we never thought, New Hanover County it's got sanctuary city type activity. I don't think they've been truly classified as that yet, but it's getting there.
Yeah, right. I mean, Democrats want Trump thrown in jail. It doesn't matter the charge, no questions asked. But someone will come here illegally drunk drive and almost kill someone, they want them to have complete immunity, and to receive the benefits that a middle class head of household male would not receive were he to lose his job.
Correct.
America first.
Always. What a
So,
great day to say that too, D-Day.
damn right. Damn right. America first. Look, we have revolution, peaceful revolution in our DNA, people. It is our job, our duty, and in our makeup to hold our government accountable. And they're not doing the job, right? We've got to say something, then we've got to do something with our feet, which brings us to our 18 program.
Your favorite.
It is my favorite. It should be everyone's favorite. All right. So here's what it is. We're laying down the gauntlet. Every week, every listener is going to do 18 things. Ideally, talk to 18 different people outside of your circle. Somebody emailed me today and said, well, 18 new people came to the GOP meeting last night.
That doesn't count, though. I don't know. Does that count, Sloan?
No, it doesn't count.
All right. Just making sure the rules are set.
It doesn't count. No, you have to initiate it. So here's some ideas. I love striking up a convo at church so much, I put it there twice. Write a chain email. Okay, if it's not your thing, write postcards. I didn't get that up there. Op-ed. If you write an op-ed in your local paper and again, you've got to take something and make it real for that county, like in Iredell, what we're going to tell you about in Iredell. It's got to be something that's prescient, something that's going on. 18 people a week. I'm going to tell you what I did.
What'd you do?
I wore my Trump mugshot shirt to Whole Foods in Cary, North Carolina, in Wake County.
You were risking it.
I am. And so I got some bad looks. I'm a type person, I'm not going to lie. If someone flips a bird at me, they will get it right back. How did it happen in the parking lot? Sorry, it's just a reflex. I struck up 2 conversations.
I wore one into Ingles here one time, not even realizing I had it on because I had to go grab some milk or something really fast. And people stopped me all over the place. It's amazing the difference, though, when you're in a totally red county versus one that's more diverse, how people treat you. And it really caught me off guard because I forgot I had it on. I didn't walk in there, thinking about it.
But wearing a Trump shirt for you or for me, it fits our personality, right? It may not be right. It may not be right for you, but I've done it at the gym, and that's where I've gotten my conversations in. I've gotten my conversations when I'm wearing something and and then I will immediately say, look, I want to be safe, right? Trump's going to close the border, blah, blah, blah. You will immediately get people shaking their head.
Safety. I think money, safety, those two inflation is killing us.
Gas cost $1.68. I checked. Same time 5 years ago. Same time 5 years ago, $1.68.
Wow.
$3.75.
It's crazy.
So,
and even funnier is the stock market is going up, which means the richest of the rich are getting richer, but the rest of us we're barely making it.
Right. Big corporate shills are across the board Democrats right now. Didn't used to be that way. But we have a Reagan coalition in Trump. So we need to maximize that. So I keep a little pad and I check off my 18. Because when Sunday night comes, buddy, and I don't have 18, I'm going to do a chain email. So if you're on one of my damn chain emails, there you go.
I use my notes on my phone. I'm so addicted to my phone. We do this podcast and I'm doing it from my phone. I just try to use all the technology I can.
I'm old school.
I wish I could be, but that's just not in my nature.
Yeah. And again, you got to do something that works for you. So we're getting a ton. I mean, I've gotten a ton of little messages. Hey, I did XYZ. Hey, I did XYZ. Does it count? Yeah, I mean, we're just starting. So this week, 18. Margo, we've had several fabulous conversations out there in the grassroots. Since Tuesday, we've done the show.
We have. And I'm so glad we were talking about that, because we had a good conversation with those gentlemen up in Iredell County, trying to get to know the lay of the land, understanding what their challenges are, what's keeping them awake at night. They're really concerned about their school board races. They're really concerned about their NC legislative races, but they're really, really concerned about what's going on in the county. They're concerned that they don't have a good planning commission that's really helping them keep things stable and in a rural light, and that they're headed toward, being urbanized, and that's just really not what the people of the county want.
Right. I was speaking to people in Rockingham and a couple of other places. They're very concerned about corruption, and everyone should be at the county commission level. The wheeling and the dealing that goes on is epic. Bladen County, they have an election with check your county commission. A lot of you guys have races. I know in Wake County, we've got really the Raleigh City Council, right? And we have to inoculate ourselves and make ourselves little islands. So the first layer of security is your school board, which is it's your smallest unit of government outside the family. There's a family, school board, maybe your city commissioner.
Yeah, our town, and then county commissioners.
You got to make that impenetrable. You have to have strong conservatives on that. Guys, go and look right now who your county commissioners are. Look at that race.
And if you don't know them, sorry, I hit the table. If you don't know them, call them and get to know them. Like that's one thing I really love about rural life, because that, let's face it, you're the urbanite and I'm the rural. I know all my county commissioners.
We're Green Acres, baby.
Yeah, and they know me, and they know I have opinions about things, and they usually know where I'm going to land on something. That's not always the case when you live in a big city, but if you live in a rural county, your county commissioners should know you if you care about your county and the kids, because I don't think a lot of people realize how closely tied the school boards are to the county commissioners when it comes to how things are funded. That school board may have the money, but they still have to go to the county commissioner to get it. Sometimes.
They absolutely do. So we've just got a great question. A few topics that are easy to talk about with people on the fence. Okay. Margo, you go first. I don't have anything on the top. I've got so much on the top of my head. What do you think?
Well, I think the easiest topic to talk about right now is what is going on in North Carolina schools when it comes to, and I mean that from the perspective of, let's talk about that young man who got suspended for the word illegal alien. That's not a Republican or a Democrat issue. That's a moral issue. Let's talk about the school down in New Hanover where they were going to literally close the school and turn it over to illegals to use. That is not a Republican or Democrat issue. That's another moral issue. I think if you really want to get people's attention, start asking them about the school situations, because let me tell you something. Even if you don't have kids in school, you're paying for them. If you own a property, you're paying for them, and you should have a vested interest in your money.
Well, I'm a big fan of tailoring what you're going to say. In other words, if I tell you what if I tell you what I think, and B, if I tell you what's applicable here in Wake County, it is not going to resonate in Stanley County, right? So, in places like Cabarrus County, for instance, they're concerned about urban sprawl, right? The crime and the infrastructure coming in from Charlotte. And they're very, most people, they want to live their lives without any massive change coming in. They want to keep more of their money and be left the hell alone. That's all anyone wants. Those things, right? Democrats they will not leave your ass alone. So you find the ways they're messing with your way of life.
I think another thing to do is ask them, what's on your mind that's bothering you about this country? The real indicator of where you can take a conversation is to be the listener, not always the active speaker, because when you get them engaged in the conversation, you can kind of lead the path the way you want. But if you ask someone like, what's on your mind that's really bothering you in this country right now? Well, that's going to tell you where the conversation is going to go. They could say, listen, I'm afraid Biden's going to lose. And I mean, do you really want to go down that road with them? Or you could just be like me and say, I hope he does. And here's why.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, we all have our reasons. We all have our biases. But again, I want y'all to remember something. When you're having a conversation with someone, it's a privilege. And so you're on their time. A lot of us will go with our hair on fire about election integrity. And we will go out and talk to every single person about that. And only maybe, I'm just making it, 1 in 10 would care. And you have lost that person. So you're right, tuning into it. What I normally do is I'm like, wow, what do you think about the schools around here?
That's a good way to put it. It's open-ended.
Or what do you think about healthcare? I mean, healthcare is another one. I mean, shortage of doctors, et cetera. What's happening by and large because of leftist policies, right? Insurance policies. Wow, they've really gone up. I mean, just when step one, and you know this, Margo, getting buy-in when you're talking at the very outset of a conversation is important.
It's all about approaching it too. I find that people want to listen to you if you'll listen to them first.
Yeah. Yeah. So, my top line issue is crime and education, right? I mean, you could also talk about, if they've got school age kids, what I would do first is in your county, look up how many failing schools there are. Okay. Because if you're I mean, in Eastern North Carolina, chances are there's a lot. And say, why should we as a taxpayer pay for 40 failing schools in our county? Asking a question to which there's no answer, but, I didn't know that. And wow, I don't like that. And then the next thing I would say, well, then why shouldn't families have access to a scholarship to give their child the American dream?
Or the privilege, and it is a privilege, to homeschool their kids and not have to worry about that as an issue, because in some states, in some areas, it's not looked at as favorable as, and they don't get paid to do it, and they still pay taxes. So
well, inflation is so high too that I've heard in Wake County, many homeschooling families do not have that privilege anymore because they're paying 40% more at the grocery store.
Right.
That's a real thing.
It is.
Yeah. So it's a real struggle. And so starting conversations off, but here's the thing. We're going to adjourn for the evening, but what I want to do is we want to hear from you guys. So go to our Twitter, follow us on Twitter, message us as much as you can. Tell us what your success stories are, right? Tell us what your success stories are. You can message us also through the website. Because we want to share best practices with all of you.
I think too, give us some feedback. We love feedback. To me, feedback's a gift. I get it every day.
It's positive.
I don't care if it's good or bad. Tell us what we can do better. Feedback is absolutely a gift. And more than anything, I want to thank y'all. You didn't have to show up, and you did. We appreciate that.
Thank you. So we'll be back next week, Tuesday night. As always, share with 10 people. Share. Okay. Got to share this. All right. Thanks, guys. See you next Tuesday.